Washington football. Woo!
Boise State.
Hello,
questions.
everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. Thank you for tuning in this episode of Rumors from the Burgundy Zone, which is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. We're going to be joined by our guest here momentarily. Should be a couple minutes, not that much, but we got to kind of go over our holiday weekend. Happy holidays. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Looks like you guys got some new merch, except for Reed. He's just stuck in a dungeon, it seems. Mike got a new printer there, which is nice to see. But obviously, lost to the Jets. Honestly, I was numb at that point. Like, it's just like, okay, you know?
Dude, I turned the game off. I'm not even going to lie. I was like, I'm not letting them ruin my goddamn Christmas. This is a day to celebrate. This is a day to be together with family. And they just kill my mood all the time, even though I want them to lose at this point. It's just, I was just watching and I was just like, you know what? Not today. Not happening anymore.
Honestly, I thought they were going to win that game going into it just because, like, everyone was getting so built up and so sized up. Like, oh, we're climbing up the boards and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, they're going to come out and beat Trevor Siemian because it's Trevor Siemian. And literally from the first pass when Curtis Samuel dropped it, I was like, And then the very next play was, like, the interception off Logan Thomas's hands. I was like, yeah, they're not winning this game. But, I mean, obviously, Jacoby almost brought us back and almost did win the game. So, but at this point, I don't care. Like, obviously, I want them to kind of lose because, I mean, they're going to be in range to get a quarterback. So it's like, yeah, but at the same time, I'm, like, to the point now where I'm like, I don't care if they win or lose because, like I said before, there's teams all throughout the NFL, all 32 teams that draft outside the top 5, 10, 12, 20, that find elite cornerstone players all the time. So it's like, I get the quarterback aspect of being in the top 3 picks or top 5, whatever it might be, but I mean, if you drop out of there, it's not like you're not going to get an elite player. It's about the person picking the player and the coaches developing the player, in my eyes, at this point.
This is the only way we could have brought down the Jets.
I will say this. Everyone was wondering.
Joke in the first 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen.
In my opinion, everyone was wondering why Josh Harris is kind of happy in that Thursday night game against the Bears. And I'd be willing to bet, there were some handshakes going on. And what's coming up, and he was Josh Harris was very excited.
How awkward his handshakes probably looked.
Well, because he was all hyped up, dude. He's like, "We're getting Caleb Williams." He's all hyped up. But boys, now we are joined by our guest, Mr. Mike Callow, brother of the podcast, our younger brother, not been a brother for very long, but it's been a pleasure, Callow. I hope you had a great weekend and a holiday. How are you doing?
I'm great, guys. Hope your holiday weekend was good. Mine was solid. Ready to talk shop.
You always have the best hats. You do have the best hat game, I think, in the DMV.
That's, I mean, no higher compliment than that, and I will take it, and I will continue to live that way. So, yes, I agree. I agree with you is what I'm saying.
Shot right through the heart there. But I have to get your opinion on this, Callow, because
Kyle, you have one.
Yeah, that's true. I got to get your opinion because obviously it was announced that Jacoby Brissett is starting for the last 2 games of the season. Everybody seems to be panicking a little bit, freaking out, very emotional thinking, including Hall, who thinks that Jacoby Brissett is somehow going to beat the 49ers or Cowboys. He's convinced of it.
I'm not thinking the 49ers. I was just more thinking the Cowboys at that point.
He said one of the 2 teams. He said that he's going to win one of those.
Because anything can happen any given Sunday, but I was really just thinking Cowboys.
Callow, what does this move mean?
All right, I think I tweeted this yesterday, and I feel like I'm still on the same point of it today. If you watch the film, Sam is lost right now, and there are moments in the season where you have to kind of evaluate even the short term of what's going on here. And I compared him to Patrick Ramsey back in the day, where Patrick Ramsey in the old fun and gun offense with Steve Spurrier was just getting destroyed, and he looked like a shell of himself by the end of the season. And if you watched on Sunday, Howell was literally ducking his head from pressure that didn't exist, then would put his head back up, then the pressure was there. Just nothing was going right for Howell. So this is the best thing for all parties involved right now. Let Howell take a breather, sit on the bench for the next week or 2 weeks. It's probably going to be 2 weeks. And this is going to be the best thing for him moving forward. You can still tell me it's a failure of the organization because it basically is, right? Doesn't have a great offensive line. The offensive play calling has been questionable, but Brissett has stepped in there and played solidly. And you can't tell me that Rivera is looking at his roster going, I can't in good faith put Howell back in there and tell everyone else to go play hard when I know it's not the right decision. So overall, it's the right short-term decision. It's still a failure overall, but I totally understand why this move is happening when it's happening.
Yeah, I would make the argument that this is almost a move for EB. Just because of how Sam Howell's been playing. People have said a lot about him as a coordinator. Well, if he has Jacoby Brissett starting for both games against the two defenses in San Francisco and Dallas and does pretty well, I think that will give him some credence moving forward. Sorry, Hall.
Right.
I thought Reed was going to go.
Okay.
No, so there's been like 4 years, obviously, of Ron Rivera here, the Ron Rivera era. There's 8 quarters left. More than likely, there's a 99.9% chance. There's 8 quarters left in the Ron Rivera era. What do you think was the biggest, I guess, downfall of Ron throughout his tenure year and not being able to get this team over the hump where they wanted to be?
Ron Rivera, the personnel man, was the clear-cut worst part of this era. I was filling in for Andy earlier this month, and I asked a question. Is this franchise, besides the owner, is this franchise in a better or worse place than when Ron took over? And it's definitively worse. There's no depth on this team. The players that were starters, he cut but then didn't replace. And we're seeing it all come to a head this season. The offensive line, he let guys go like Morgan Moses and Eric Flowers. For some reason, Brendan Sheriff didn't want their money. I don't know what happened there. But you have guys that were solid like Flowers and Moses that he didn't replace. And we're seeing it happen in real time that they tried to kind of get guys off the scrap heap like Wiley and Gates. And then you go back to last year with like Trey Turner and some of the other veterans that we all kind of knew weren't going to be good. So for me, the worst part about this Rivera era is the personnel. And also, what is the worst thing you can do in the draft nowadays? Reach for a need. And that's all he basically did. Outside of Dotson, really, that was a trade down. That was fine. But he drafted for need in the first round for Jamin Davis and Emmanuel Forbes. And we've seen how both of those guys have gone. It hasn't been great. And so drafting for need has really killed this team. Also, the kind of like the not having the feel of where some of these guys should play. Like he drafts Cosby. Cosby's been great as a guard this year, but he drafted him as a tackle. Like that's a failure of a pick, in my opinion. He's a starter now, which is fine. But for me, it's Ron, the evaluator. It's Ron, the personnel guy. And then outside of that first free agent class where it was McKissick and Logan Thomas, and I think there was 1 or 2 others that were really good.
Well, Schweitzer was surprisingly decent.
Schweitzer was good, but like outside of that, hasn't been that good.
Yeah. It's crazy too because like over the last few years, one thing that we were always certain about with Washington was that this, like we said it multiple times, like this team might have the most depth that they've had in a long time, just because of young players that showed some potential but didn't really gel this year. And it's just crazy what a year can do. But back to the whole quarterback dilemma. So now a lot of people, of course, there's a lot of hype right now around Caleb Williams, Drake May. A lot of people want to see Sam Howell back here. So during these last 2 games, if Jacoby Brissett plays well, but behind this offensive line, do you think that quarterback automatically becomes need number 1? Because I know a lot of people want him to draft offensive tackle. Like if it ends up, it was just like Sam Howell struggled with pocket presence, pocket awareness over the first few weeks. And I think that's kind of evidenced by like PFF's ratings of the offensive line during the beginning to mid part of the season. Like they didn't play as bad as people thought that they did. I think a lot of that was on Sam, a lot of the sacks, but the offensive line still not producing like it should. So what will that change your mind on things maybe?
Well, I think quarterback has a need here. I think it's like you kind of have to zoom out, right, a little bit. You don't suck often enough to be in the position to draft one of these guys like Williams or May. And I feel like I'm not saying the Chase Young pick was wrong by any means. They had just drafted Haskins. Rivera came in and hindsight, of course. I mean, we can look at it, but like, and I'm sure too, like this isn't official, but you got to think Dan Snyder told Ron, like, you can do whatever you want, but give Haskins a chance. And that's probably why they didn't draft a quarterback. That's always been my feeling. I'm not reporting anything, but that's what I
with you totally, Mike.
Yeah, I think that's 100%.
I felt
he was close
the whole
with his
way.
Family and stuff, or his son, whatever.
He drafted him. Like Snyder drafted him. Like remember the whole building was up in arms that he walked off the yacht. Yeah, exactly. And so I think had Ron gotten, the okay, I think he would have drafted Tua number 2 overall. And apparently the building really liked Justin Herbert. Now, that's definitely hindsight. Like, I don't care what anyone says. No one thought that guy was going to be as good as he's been.
Chase was considered a generational talent at a premier position. So,
and from here, too, right? Like, marketing machine if everything had gone well, and it didn't go well. But that being said, they're in the position here that they should be able to get one of these 2 quarterbacks. Even if they're sitting at number 3, it's going to take a modest move up with one of the other 2 teams to get one of those guys. So to answer your question, it's taken me a while to get there, is it's not going to be a need, but I think you do have to take a shot on one of these guys, because looking at how, at the end of the day, he was a 5th-round pick. We all kind of know the ceiling, if you're not one of those 1-1 type of guys, is you have to build the roster up really well. The roster's not in a good position right now. And plus, it's going to depend who you bring in here, not only as the coach, but who the GM is as well. And I think everybody's probably going to want to start clean and most likely have a new starter. The other thing here, too, is I think people are kind of sleeping on this. Hal's good enough to be a backup, and he's super cheap. Like, he's going to stick around here for a couple more years after this. Like, I think people are sleeping that his career's over with. We're in an NFL season where 63 starters have started games at quarterback this year. It's going to take a couple quarterbacks for you to get through a season nowadays.
Yeah, and that being said, obviously the report came in by like Dove Kleinman. To wrap this up, only a couple more questions for you, brother. But he had reported that Washington is very interested in Caleb Williams.
Don't say Dove Kleinman. That dude doesn't report anything.
I'm just saying that's the tweet that I saw, dude.
From ESPN.
Don't shoot the messenger.
I think it was Dan Graziano.
Yeah, it was Dan Graziano.
I don't care. That's who tweet I saw, Mike.
Way more credible than fucking
my point, Callow. My point is basically like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, everyone is interested in Caleb Williams, right? But
Kyle's really interested.
Would you be willing? Like, let's say you were the GM, Callow. So let's just do a hypothetical question here. Would you be willing to make that move from 3 to 1? Because I think there is legit juice to that.
100% yes. I think everyone needs to take a step back too and look at all the former, number 2 overall picks / guys that are from here that haven't worked out, and finally use the reasoning. Dan Snyder was the owner. He always buddied up to those players like RG3, LeVar Arrington, Haskins. I know he wasn't number 2 overall, but from here. Chase Young, like, all those guys get special treatment. If there's anything we know about Josh Harris, he is hands off. He stays in the background. He doesn't really get himself involved. And I have all the faith in the world that if they draft Caleb Williams, either at 1 or 2, that it will not be like in years past. And I feel like, once again, you don't suck enough to get to this position often. So you might as well roll the dice here on the kid that is from here, that went to Gonzaga, makes these Patrick Mahomes-esque plays at USC. I think you roll the dice here. Yes, I'm 100% interested. And the trade-up isn't going to be like the RG3 trade where you're moving 3 first-round picks and a couple other pieces here. You might be able to get it done with one of your seconds, or at most maybe another first-rounder. I don't see that being the price, though. You're right here. It's only going to take a little bit to get him. I think you roll the dice 100%.
Yeah, and
because of the type of prospect he's considered, I'm sure the Bears will hold it for a ransom, but it's not going to be. It shouldn't be anywhere near the RG3 one. I mean, look at when the 49ers traded back with the Bears for Trubisky. I mean, that was from 2 to 3, and that was for Trubisky, not Caleb Williams. But it's not going to be what people are expecting.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, too, like, whoever the Bears like, they'll be there. Like, they'll be there at number 3. So if they like Marvin Harrison Jr., you can take him. If they like either tackle from Notre Dame or Penn State, like, the player that they want will be there if they trade with the Commanders. So essentially, I think you probably dangle their second-round pick back at them and go, here, take it, and you're still going to get the player you want.
Yeah. And then they look good because they basically got Montez Sweat for free, essentially. To your point, Cal, that's a fantastic point by you. I don't care what he does with his fingernails on game days or if he cries. I know Reed would
fingernails on the weekends.
Reed really assimilates with that. He knows what that is like, crying a lot, And I'm all for it, dude. Come home, dude. I'm all for it. But to make this go a little bit further, bring it back to football, because there is a game this weekend against the 49ers, and we all know how it is going to turn out. But Khaleke Hudson and others have stepped in. DeJuan Harris just got activated today. I'm not sure for practice. I'm not sure if he's actually going to play this weekend. But also Jared Patterson, friendly face, came back, got signed with Chris Rodriguez going on at IR. Who are some guys that you're looking for this weekend to see about the future of this football team? Who are some guys you're circling to view?
Definitely Patterson. I've always liked his game. I just think there was a logjam at running back. Look, there's going to be a natural opening next year here too. Like, most likely Gibson's probably going to walk. I don't see them re-signing him. So Patterson, for all intents and purposes, at least playing for a roster spot, for training camp, bare minimum, right? I know you mentioned Harris and Hudson was playing last week as well. Give me literally any practice squad players or anyone that we haven't really seen here, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Nothing has worked all season long. I will take any names to play. I don't I know it sounds like a cop out here, but there are no names I'm looking at specifically just because they've rolled out the same ones. I do look at some of the other guys though that are up for deals. Like, how does Cam Curl play these last 2 games?
Right.
He's playing for a contract. It hasn't really been talked about that. Does the next regime want to re-sign him? We don't know who the next regime is. I think you kind of look at some of those guys that are still looking for contracts. How does he play? On the offensive side of the ball, Curtis Samuel's been really solid this year, actually. And is he playing for a roster spot next year as well? Does he play well enough? Because they don't really need to draft any wide receivers with Jahan and Terry. Can you approach him for a re-sign here? So I actually look more as much as on the defensive side of the ball, I want to see some of the younger names. I look at some of the veterans to see how they're going to play and finish out the season, because it's also not an easy task. You get to the Niners and the Cowboys. Those are 2 of the top seeds in the NFC. So I want to see how they stack up for 2 teams that are still playing for seeding.
I hope they stomp us, both of them.
Don't say that. I don't hope that at all.
1 point losses. 1 point losses.
There you go. There you go. That's what I'm talking about, Callow. That's the Josh Harris way to view things. To wrap this up, last question for you. So you briefly highlighted it a little bit, talking about the next regime, possibly new GM coming in here, and he's obviously going to hire the new or female going to hire the new head coach. I know you're plugged in a lot more than you want to say. We'd love to hear what are the latest rumors, circling of names, possible interest, people just for interviews. What are you hearing?
So obviously the offensive coordinator in Detroit is one that we've all heard. And it depends. Yeah, Ben Johnson. And I'm sure there's been some chatter this week about how if he were to hop on board, does he actually believe in Sam Howell? We don't know any of that. Here's what I do know, though, and what I have heard is that basically you will not hear a thing about the coach until Ron is gone, of course, but then they hire a GM. That essentially they want to go that San Francisco route of hiring the GM first, then hiring the head coach, whoever that may be. And I have no idea who the GM is, but I know that there's been a ton of talk. There's been talks of Harris snagging somebody from Philly because he obviously owns the Sixers and has some connections up there. I'm all for that, by the way. That organization is one of my favorites in terms of how they operate, miss me with the fan base and all that. But that organization does everything right. So I'd be really on board with that. I've heard Atlanta, possibly someone from their front office as well could pop up here. But I'm looking at it as there really hasn't been any talks in terms of the actual coach. They're going to figure out the GM part of it first, see where it goes from there. And I think that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine to have a plan in place for once and not have the owner saying he wants the shiny new toy or of whoever that could be. I've also heard, I was trying to remember, Bram on the show today said one of the defensive coordinators, I'm trying to remember,
Mike McDonald.
Yes, McDonald. That's another name to pay attention to, especially with, if you look how the Ravens roster is, a lot of veterans, not anyone playing crazily well outside of Hamilton, but he has a bunch of veterans that are overachieving. That's kind of what you need with this defense. So that would be a good fit here as well. That's a name that we talked about on the show earlier today.
Yeah, Mike McDonald, somebody that OGWCC brought up a while ago, and that's somebody that piqued my interest because even going back a couple years ago, they've had multiple injuries. They've had catastrophic injuries at corner, and they still produce at a top level with that defense. So you're in a good position there with the structure of the team and everything. And we know that Josh Harris wants to emulate the Commanders from the Ravens, right? He wants to kind of mimic that kind of structure, and that'd be a great way to start it. Mike, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Real quick before we get out of here, would you like to plug your social media handle and your show, just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet and would like to, sir?
Of course. You can follow me at Mike_Callow on wherever you find social media. And then I am on with Bram Weinstein every day, 3 to 6 on his show. Bram, of course, the voice of the Commanders, as I always pump to you guys. Listen to our Friday show. Bram always talks to Ron Rivera, kind of echoes what is going to be happening with the team over the weekend. It's definitely been a little more interesting the last 2-3 weeks because they haven't been playing for much, but we talk about what we do, and Bram, of course, is very plugged in, so always highly recommend listening to us on ESPN 630. And if you're not in the DC area, the ESPN 630 app has you covered as well.
My man, thank you so much, Callow. Have a great weekend, sir. Enjoy the game and enjoy some peace and relaxation. Have a great New Year's Eve, sir.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Always love coming on with you guys.
See you, man.
Have a good one, brother. All right, we just spoke with the Hat King, Mr. Mike Callow, always appreciate having him come on here. He's like a brother of the pod, man. It's so easy to talk to him.
That was a fantastic get by our little Oklahoma boy.
I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, yeah. T-Mac. Yeah, you're right. I was like,
T-Mac
where are you going with this, dude? This is so weirded out by that.
I was wondering if you'd pick up my breadcrumb trail. I laid it down for you, and I said, T-Mac.
What happened to Hall, by the way? Is Hall here?
Hall just kind of always in that position, so I wasn't sure if he was frozen or not. But
is he asleep?
He could be. That's the thing. You never can tell with him.
No, you can't. Like, is he asleep? Is he just sitting there? Nobody knows. But let's just continue to go on here a little bit. With the Jacoby thing, I honestly believe this is a way for EB to save face, in my personal opinion, for the simple fact of, people have kind of been downplaying his usage and his ability as OC. And if you're able to get Jacoby in there, who's giving you some flashes, you'd want him to come in there, be able to show the offense can produce and execute and say, look, it's not just me. And ultimately, that's how I view this. Like, I saw people reacting on Twitter a lot to my posts, saying, this is such a stupid move by them because what if they win a game, blah, blah. Like, I don't think they honestly are concerned about that. I think the end result is still the same. They just want to kind of change the messaging behind those losses, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it's tough, but I do kind of think that the whole EB thing, like EB for a lot of the season, he was praised by a lot of people. We know that he took this position to kind of prove that he was a good offensive coordinator. So it's almost like maybe Rivera's kind of coming out here, like you were saying, and just kind of throwing him a bone to be like, hey, when you have a veteran quarterback, somebody who's, a little bit more experienced, your offense still works. Like it works a lot better because Sam has been struggling so much, and it's, I mean, it is what it is. Maybe it's like a little showcase for him. Maybe it's also a showcase for Jacoby, and maybe it's also a slap in the face. No, I don't think Ron would do that. He's a nice guy, but no, it's interesting, man. It's definitely a weird season, that's for sure.
It definitely is, because like at one point leading in passing yards to then being like kind of Sam's production and usage of past couple weeks, it has been kind of crazy just to see everything play out. But what makes it even more sinister is that Jacoby comes in and easily just picks up.
That's
and
weird.
it's
and
it really just gets you because you understand what's going on with Sam,
right?
And everything's starting to kind of blend in together, and that's what you're trying to kind of stop. And I understand what everyone says by the reset, but I honestly believe that if you're doing this to end the season, that essentially is telling you like what the end result and what the goal is, in my personal opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, for sure. And that is, you're right. That is, there's 2 halls right now. That's sick. Yeah. That is the weird part is it's like Sam, for a lot of the season, he played so well. He made so many incredible plays, and then so many people were like, I was just about sold on him. But then like the last month and a half has happened, and it's just been like, and it sucks because, I mean, it happens, especially to young quarterbacks. But like, I mean, seeing Jacoby go in there in known passing situations and bring the team back each time and look fantastic. It's
right.
It's going to be interesting. It's really telling for Howell, but that doesn't mean that Howell's can't be the guy somewhere. That doesn't mean he can't be the guy here. That doesn't mean it's just a learning experience that happens with young quarterbacks, unfortunately. And Sam also showed a lot of good this year. He did with his ball placement, a lot of his throws, his pocket presence. So
yeah, but that being said, that obviously 17 games in the NFL is very, very hard. And obviously this offensive staff did not do the best thing possible in order to make Sam Howell look as good as possible. And that's why I'm really confused about it all, because where is truly the confidence and the growth behind it? Like, what are we really building towards? Right. Or is this more so just literally a test run year to say, put your film out there because it's going to be all washed up anyway at the end, And that's where the confusion lies for me more so.
Right. You would think that they would want Sam to start these last 2 games just to kind of be like, all right, dude, who were you? Who are you? Was it the first half of the season, Sam Howell, that we saw, or is it the one who's been here for the last month and a half? Which guy are you? And maybe that's unfair going up against 2 very good defenses.
Kind of like talking to you right now. It's like
you're
like an adult.
Talking. Yeah. No, I'm not. Come on, Kyle.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Now let's go to our fan questions.
You're doing that, Kyle? I'm telling you what. I'm gonna piss on your ass. I'm just kidding.
Let's go to our fan
make
questions.
You wet.
Hall, this one was submitted by the Colonel. He says, how crazy would it be to get Russell Wilson on the cheap to mentor Sam Howell, who has a similar build and playing style? That way we could focus on building a team around the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't really want Russell Wilson. If he just, I mean, obviously he's playing pretty good this season, and he's actually dealing with all the ridiculousness that's going on with the Broncos pretty well, actually. But
I mean, when you get paid $200 million, probably should shut up.
exactly,
Dude,
right.
I would get
But at the same
dog
time, though,
after
they've
him.
been telling
Not
him
like
since like
Kyler, but like
October,
he's
like,
real
hey,
bad.
like take this out of your contract and blah 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 blah. And all he does is go out there and throw touchdowns and
Mr.
take him on like a
Unlimited.
5 game winning streak, knowing that Sean Payton's basically just like, I hate you and I don't want you on my team. I heard he came into the locker room blasting like Future one day. It was ridiculous. But
Wait, really?
no, I'm just
Oh,
joking.
I was like, damn, I
Dang, you
thought
got Reed on
that'd
that
be
one.
an
Good
alpha
job.
move. That would be
That
a
would be pretty
little M
savage
Night
though.
Shyamalan twist.
But no, I mean, it just seems like, unfortunately, even if he's playing good, playing bad, let's ride, anything. There's some type of drama always
Don't say let's
surrounding
ride.
Russell Wilson. There's always some type of drama surrounding Russell Wilson.
Unlimited.
And I'm done with all the drama. I've been dealing with it for 25, 30 plus years at this point. I don't want any more drama. I just want functional football people making functional football decisions. And as cool as it would be to maybe get Sam Howell's mind right and have him sit behind Russell Wilson, I don't want him learning anything from Russell Wilson because, like I said, there's always some type of drama that comes with Russell Wilson, whether it's him playing good or him playing bad.
Sam Howell
Totally
might be
agree with
blacker
you.
than Russell Wilson too.
Totally agree with you, Hall. Totally agree with you. All I'll say is not you, but people who think like you and have the same similar opinion that don't want any drama going on, want it to be a normal organization. We're crying about Ron Rivera to be fired all season long. That being said,
Sam Howell might be blacker than Russell Wilson as well, which is very interesting.
And roll them boys.
No, but
Just go out there and roll them boys.
honestly,
Yeah.
Colonel, that idea
They
needs to be
done
taken
messed up
around.
with them boys back in town.
Honestly,
Hell yeah,
Colonel,
Sam.
this idea needs to be taken around back and shot. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Oh, look, I respect Russell Wilson and everything that he does, but I think Jacoby Brissett is one hell of a veteran presence to be helping Sam Howell more so than anybody else. And I think that we'd have to ask Jacoby if he'd like to be retained, but I don't have any issues with Jacoby staying here, and hopefully he'd want to stay here given the circumstances permitting. But we don't know how the future lies, and honestly, what this organization truly wants from an ownership standpoint.
Best case scenario, we get a Drew Brees, Philip Rivers situation, except for we don't lose Drew Brees via free agency. We trade
Actually,
him and
Philip
get all
Rivers
the shit.
actually wants to make a comeback. So
Really? Yeah, he also
him.
wants to make a 15th child. That dude has so many kids.
It's probably he wants to make a comeback.
Maybe he
He's
should
like, I got
start
no
coming
more
on
QB.
backs. I told you, Kyle. This one's gonna be.
I poked the bear. I poked the bear. This next question, Reed, is from the Colonel. Jacoby Brissett is an unrestricted free agent in about 12 days, meaning that we can't get any compensation for him. Why the hell is Sam Howell not given the two last tryouts? Though it's clear we will be selecting a quarterback in the draft, he has still 2 seasons left on his rookie deal.
Yeah, I mean, nobody can deny that the last month and a half or so has been pretty rough for Sam Howell. However, yeah, I don't get it, dude. You would think that you would want to see what he's got. You would think that you'd want to give him every opportunity to get more experience. And even if you do, if you want a quarterback, maybe bump up trade value or something. But look, it's a good situation to have. I think keeping Sam Howell around. I would like to keep either one, but if you keep Sam Howell around, let him and the rookie just battle it out. Worst case scenario, if Sam Howell beats him out, then Sam Howell's a pretty goddamn good player, and you get a franchise guy either way. I would hope so. That's the best case scenario, but of course it's Washington. So what's probably going to happen is they're both going to bust, and then they're both going to force their way out in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that.
No, but with Jacoby, obviously I would like to be able to retain Jacoby, but he's one of the more higher priced free agents. Obviously, he's going to have a choice somewhere to go. Though it's clear he'll be selected quarterback. The whole thing with Sam, I've always said that like it would create that kind of social dynamic with Sam because he was the starter that I don't want to be here kind of thing. And obviously Sam has shown the character aspect to not kind of go that way. But that being said, if Sam is cool with it, obviously that's the home run scenario for everybody involved. Sam Howell is very cheap at the moment, and he has shown you that he can come in and actually be productive at the NFL level. It's just more so the consistency basis throughout 17 games. And so you don't feel bad at all with him as a backup. It's just the social aspect. Is he truly okay with it, or is he going to pull Carson Wentz type of thing? And that's not what you want to, kind of deal with going forward. You want to answer that, Hall?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Sam would like pull like a Carson Wentz type of thing. Like his dad was a football coach. He's a coach's son. So like he kind of knows like what it is to like be around locker rooms and how you're supposed their locker room etiquette, so to say, and whatnot. And like you say, he's been pretty professional throughout the whole time. But as far as Jacoby Brissett goes, I would love to have him here as a backup, just mentoring like the young guy. Obviously, he's been a pretty instrumental in Sam Howell's like growth throughout the beginning of the season and him learning as well. He's a great guy in the locker room, smart guy, great guy to have in the quarterback room. I just think that Jacoby, for the last, what has it been, 3 quarters that he's played or whatever it's been,
Yeah.
he's shown that, and even going back to Cleveland last year, he's shown that he can still be like a fringe starter and maybe even like a bridge type of guy for like the next incoming rookie quarterback of whatever team drafts, maybe like a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix in the second or third round, whatever it may be. So I think that he'll get some.
There's one thing I can say. Penix is one hard prospect to evaluate. Am I right, Reed?
I know you love watching him. You love staring at him. You watch film of Penix all day. It's crazy too because sometimes the X is pronounced like an S. So like that's what on Kyle's mind the whole time. He's just like, oh, let me watch some penis.
I tell you, man, his parents screwed up. They should have named him Big, or they should have named him Whiskey.
Right? Yeah. Whiskey Penix. Yeah.
You know about that, Reed?
Do I? Boy, do I. Kyle, you hate me. I swear to God, you're out me like that. You hate me so bad.
No, but I think he'll go wherever he can get an opportunity to get more time on the field. Just because I think he's been showing people that hey, I can still do it at a high enough level to start in this league.
Yeah, but look, I guess you could say Kansas City, maybe somewhere like that, where he could maybe win a ring, where he could be the backup, where he wouldn't like.
No, I'm saying like I think that like Atlanta might be looking for a quarterback, so he can go to Atlanta.
They're not going to be looking for a starter in that breath. They would just roll with what they got. But you're right. Maybe they will. You're right.
No, but they're not high enough. They're not. I'm saying like they're going to have to draft a guy like Penix or Bo Nix or someone like that, just because they're not going to be able to get high enough up at this point to get a guy like Drake May, Caleb Williams, whoever it might be. So maybe they draft a guy in the second or third round and say, hey, we'll give the start to Jacoby or even Minnesota because I don't know what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins, but just somewhere like that where they say, hey, let's just throw Jacoby in there for the first 6 to 8 games. If he balls out and we're in the playoff mix, cool. If not, we hand it over to the young guy, get him ready behind Jacoby, and then we hand the reins over. But
you know how blown Atlanta fans would be if after like taking a second, third round flyer on Desmond Ridder, they were like, yeah, let's go second, third round quarterback again. That would suck. That would suck.
I did want to put this in there. Andy Lockhart in our Discord had submitted this. I'm not sure where it is. It's some article, but obviously it's like some like on black market. I don't know. The Commanders should find themselves in a prime spot to draft their next franchise quarterback, currently slated to select number 3 overall. 2023 QB1 Sam Howell holds a non-guaranteed 2 years, $2 million, while veteran Jacoby Brissett is slated for free agency next March. Washington acquires Zach Wilson and a 5th-round pick from the Jets, sending back Sam Howell. The Commanders then select their next franchise quarterback at the top of the draft, giving him the keys to the car immediately. My big question here, why are we spending more?
Why are we acquiring Zach Wilson also?
Dude, I have no idea. In what world would we need to give you guys a 5th-round pick for Zach Wilson? Do you think that Sam Howell is worse than Zach Wilson?
I would be, yeah, right? That's come on. I would, it would be funny, though. I would be all for that because I want to see him and Dex Milne finally settle this. I want to see them fight. Two Mormon-ass white boys who used to be best friends become mortal enemies because of a female. I would watch that. Dude, if that was on Hard Knocks, I would watch that for sure. That'd be an interesting storyline.
Totally would be an interesting storyline.
I got Zach Wilson beating your ass, Kyle.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Now let's go to our.
He is a professional athlete. I forgot about that.
Let's go to our next question. This one was submitted by.
Dak got his ass whipped when he was.
This one was submitted by Tony Franchise. What's happened to Sam Howell reminds me of what happened to Patrick Ramsey here as far as possibly being shell-shocked. Don't think Sam can rebound after this under the new regime?
What was the question?
Are you serious?
Sam Howell's.
My earpiece fell out.
What has happened to Sam Howell reminds me of what happened to Patrick Ramsey here as far as possibly being shell-shocked. Don't think Sam can rebound after this do you think Sam can rebound after this under the new future regime?
Yeah. I think he can rebound. I think the reset will be good for him just to like see how Jacoby operates, see how he hits his back foot, lets the ball go, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, getting on the field and playing is the best experience you're going to get, like in the NFL wise. But yeah, I just think, I mean, like we were talking about with Callow, if you watch the games, even if you watch that Jets game, it was almost like reminiscent of Sam Darnold when he played for the Jets, when he was out there seeing ghosts and he's just ducking away and trying to jumping away from pressure that's not there. And it kind of just seems like when one thing doesn't go your way, it just kind of snowballs and keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And he's still a young quarterback and he still hasn't started a whole full season's worth of games yet. I think that a new regime can come in and different what's it called? Different scheme, different offense, maybe similar to what Scott Turner was running, that it maybe seems like Sam was a little bit more comfortable in that offense as opposed to this one. But maybe something like maybe the new guy will have a better scheme, more concepts. There obviously hopefully be better talent around. So I think that'll grow his confidence back up and build him back up. And I think that he has a pretty long career in the league. It's just where and how will it be, as I guess is the question at this point.
Yeah, especially in the pros. It's your mental aspect. If you're prolonging kind of thing, and I think Sam has shown the mental makeup to be able to produce. So I do think his future is bright under the new regime. It's just like I told you, Tony. It's that social aspect. Is he going to be cool with it? If that is a possible thing. But if the new regime wants to go with him, then yeah, obviously I think that he can blossom under it, but it's all based on the social aspect of this. Now the next question from the Discord chat, Reed. This is from our boy Tim Towner. Unless something crazy happens, and just shoot me if it does, we'll pick at number 3, and the expectation is this mess of a team will not get fixed in short order. So, if you had the option, would you go offensive tackle, quarterback, or trade for future picks?
If we are picking at 3, and so first of all, like I love this notion that like if we're picking at 3 and Arizona's in front of us, we're gonna get Drake May, because that's not somebody's gonna trade up in front of us because somebody's gonna want him more. We're gonna trade up. Like quarterbacks are gonna go 1 and 2. You can almost guarantee that, just because they're elite level quarterbacks. That's just how it always seems to work. It depends on how far Arizona wants to drop back though. But New England could move from 4 to 2. Easily.
I think Arizona is the real big cog in it, because Arizona could literally fix their offense by getting Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that is who they are freaking targeting, and if he's there too, they're not gonna move out of that spot.
Yeah,
well, they can still trade out to like 3 or 4, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
and they can still have Marvin Harrison drop to them.
If not, dude,
they can acquire more draft picks to rebuild the team faster. So
yeah.
I think Arizona more than likely trades out of it, but I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. But I would go. I mean, in that scenario, like let's say Caleb Williams goes 1, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. goes 2. I would take Drake May. I would take Drake May in a heartbeat. And it's just like not passing on one of these guys. I like Drake May a lot. I like Caleb Williams a little bit better, and I know people probably aren't going to like to hear that because everybody's all mad about Sam Allen. I get that, but I mean, at some point, man, you got to swing on some of these generational guys. We missed it last time we were picking this high, and it sucks because I do like Sam, but like, tell me how cool that would be to have a nice franchise quarterback for once. You know what I'm saying? A legit one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, dude. I said this on Twitter today. Like, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say it didn't excite me to be able to have somebody like Caleb Williams here.
You're excited. Feel these nipples, Kyle.
Just think about like what were we thinking after we traded up for Robert Griffin III? Like, we were thinking we finally got a quarterback that we don't have to worry about for the next 10 years, right? We're going to be set for 10 years. This is actually, we can work with this, and this is the start of something cool. And if you're able to get something like that, then obviously that's what you got to be going towards. I honestly think that the things could play out in the way of saying, like, Olu goes number 1. I think Marvin Harrison could go number 2, because obviously Arizona last year took Paris Johnson in the top 5. And I think teams are okay with selecting an offensive lineman in the top 5, and I think it's a real possibility. So in my opinion, yeah, if you're in that position, you go for it. And that being said, even if somebody's trying to trade up with Chicago at number 1, it's not going to take all that much for you to move up. And I think Chicago would be liking to have those 2 picks right next to each other in that top half of the round, so they can really put some playmakers around Justin.
if say Caleb Williams goes 1, somebody jumps in front of us. This is assuming we don't pick 2. Let's hope we pick 2. But if somebody jumps in front of us and takes Drake May, let's say New England trades up. That scenario, I would take Olufashanu over Jaden Daniels right now. But of course, a lot's going to happen between now the combine and the draft and stuff. So somebody's going to fly up his boards, or Jaden Daniels probably will. And who knows? By March, I'll probably be like, "Give me Jaden Daniels! I'm so excited."
Yeah, I was thinking the same exact thing because Tim, I haven't watched much on these other guys. I haven't even watched Caleb yet.
Jaden Daniels' deep ball is insane.
It is. I watched some of Jaden, and
dude.
he is really, really freaking good. But the difference with LSU is he had a good offensive line.
And
so can you mimic that here
in the NFL, dude? Have you seen people want to talk about Caleb Williams having a small frame? He's at least stocky and short, but Jaden Daniels, for his size, at like 6'4", 210, never gets down, gets popped at least 3 times a game, and you're just like, what are you doing? I saw that defender. Come on, sir. But deep ball is one of the best I've ever seen, dude. It's on the dime.
Yeah, if we do take Caleb, I hope Caleb every week just puts duck phallus on his fingernails. Whatever he draws, just do that, man. I absolutely would love that. Now,
duck phallus, is that a duck penis, Kyle?
Now this next question, the discourse from Deluxe. Yeah. Hall, a much more robust analytical department can play a major part in game planning and talent evaluation. What kind of situational analytics would you look at for the QB and linebacker positions?
Man, I don't know.
Man. For me, especially for linebacker, I think that it has to do a lot with mental. So it has to do reaction speed, awareness, placement on the field. I think that's more so where I would say mental testing, being reaction time, being able to visualize things, break it down kind of in a testing format. I think those analytical, that kind of data is what you really want to go for. If there's anything you could go for with a quarterback and linebacker in a comparison of what the duties are, because, obviously I want the linebacker and the quarterback are essentially doing the same exact thing for each side of the ball. They got to be able to know what they're looking at. They got to be able to know who they're going against, and they got to be able to know how to beat it.
You can show them how. You're a big Michael Jackson fan.
Stop it, dude. This next question from Tim Towner in Discord read: who will be the first one in the DC media to suggest Washington is interested in trading for Russell Wilson?
I feel like JP put something out about that. How that could be a possibility? Which is weird. Usually, JP, for as much as black as we give him, I'm gonna say EB. EB's always the one who has the dumb, stupid ideas. Not the Eric Bickle, the original EB from the Junkies. He's the dumbass. He's the one who puts out dumb stuff all the time, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'd probably say it'd probably be like JP or somebody from the Junkies. Yeah. He'll look at Russell Wilson and be like, "Oh,
I'll tell you
similar weapons as far as Cortland Sutton and Jerry Judy, like two good receivers on your team." He'll look at the numbers and he'll say, "Oh, look at the analytics, look at the next gen stats and all that." But I don't know. Someone will put it out there just to say, "I heard this, I heard that," for engagement and whatnot and clicks. But Russell Wilson's not coming to DC. Even if he wanted to this time, he ain't coming to DC.
I'll tell you what, Falker. We're going to bring in Russell Wilson, Falker.
Yeah, honestly, I don't want to pick on anybody, but I actually don't mind the guy. If it's anybody, it's going to be Chris Russell. Chris Russell's going to come on the air. He goes, "How dare you guys? How do you say no to Russell Wilson?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. For a team that's been starving for a quarterback, you're going to turn your nose up at Russell freaking Wilson.
You're perennial losers, and you say no to a Super Bowl champion?
Why we should trade for Russell Wilson? Give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes.
That's Rick Snyder.
Same fucking people,
dude. That's so racist. That's so racist.
How is that racist? Because they're white.
This next question from Chris Comerton read: for me, he says, this is probably the most disappointing season we've had in 25 years because my hopes and expectations were so high. What is your most WTH just happened season?
This one, I completely agree. Yeah, no, I've never had such high. Obviously, look at me. I've never had much high standards for anything, but I was like, at least we'll finish middle of the pack, and that'll be okay because that's just a Ron Rivera team. That's what Ron Rivera does. No, and I was so sure. I was like, at least we have building blocks. At least we have depth. At least we have some good young guys. At least we've done a good job signing guys and drafting guys. Jesus Christ, how fast that changed. I was so wrong on that. Good God. This has been abysmal. This has just been what the H? What the H is going on? Also, I got to go.
Yeah, yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah, I do.
All right, buddy. We'll see you. Good job. Good job today.
Hey,
Good
thank
job.
you, thank you. And I apologize to anybody out there who did not understand my super funny jokes or get offended by them. Don't send your hate mail to KyleRonick@gmail.com. Also, use promo code Kyle's Twink at womanscape.com. Check you later.
All right, dude. We'll see you.
McGruff.
Yeah. By far for me, dude, this is pretty much easy for me. It's the season of 2014. I mean 2013. After 2012, how we kind of thought going forward how the quarterback position was going to look. Going in that 2013 season, we went in with a lot of hope, and then it just fell flat on its face. Getting ready for week 1, that he gets injured again, and it's just like all hope is gone because you know what's coming down the pipeline. And with having to trade up all those assets, knowing you don't have a first rounder, your quarterback is injured, and you don't really know what's going on in the future, and with Snyder still as your owner, I'd say 2013 takes the frickin' cake, man. That was atrocious.
Yeah, I was debating between this season and 2013 just because of, just like you said, Chris, and the question. I feel like my expectations. I feel like my expectations in 2013 were a little bit more like, all right, this is the season. Here we go. Just because of obviously like how we ended 2012,
Right.
and just like even with us going up 14-0 against Seattle with a 50, 60%, whatever it was, RG3, then just like obviously like everyone watched the All In for Week 1 documentary and blah 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 blah. And so everyone was just kind of like I feel like everyone just assumed like, oh, we're about to pick off right where we left off to end the season, and this is about to start. I know last year it didn't end well.
We were.
Yeah, this is about to start the Washington run. We're about to tear the NFC East up. We're about to just kill the NFC. We're about to get finally NFC Championship, Super Bowls, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. And like you said, it just came crashing down oh so quickly. But I will say this is a close second just because going into the season and you just look at the Vegas win total, you're like 6.5. You're like, what? After the last 2 seasons we had with abysmal to just quarterback play at the best. Just the average fan just looking at it was like, well, if Sam Howell is just average, like we should win at least minimum the 7, 8, 9 games that we've been winning for the last 2 years. And just look at the whole NFC as a whole. The conference was kind of weak. It was like really top heavy as far as the top 3.
I mean, it's still wide open.
Exactly. The top 2 or 3 teams, obviously, we're going to be there. But outside of those 3 teams, it was kind of like, the rest of it is wide open, and you can maybe make a play. And to not even be competing for a 7th seed when I think the 7th seed is like 7 and 8 or 8 and 7 right now. But a couple weeks ago, the 7th seed had 6 wins. So like just to even think about like you can't even compete enough to be competing for 6 wins at a 7th seed in the playoffs is highly, highly disappointing. It's almost like what the hell moment. But
I understand your frustration, but just remember.
I will say 2013 is right.
This is wanted. This is embraced.
Oh, no. I mean, I've kind of, once they lost to Seattle, honestly, I was kind of like, well, honestly, after that game, I was like, we're still in it. But once they lost to I think it was the Giants after that they played, that's when I was like, yeah, this is a wrap. Like, just, I don't know where it's going after this. But yeah, I will say that 2013, just because you already know, I was one of the biggest RG3 guys. All in for week 1. I thought we'd pick up where we left off, and I thought it would be the start of the new Washington. Everyone's going to be on our sack again. We'd be like the new hot team, and boy, were we wrong.
Man, how great was that Madden year when we had a good team, Man. Madden usually always sized us regardless. Mm-hmm. Like that was the best time as a Washington fan was when you were playing Madden because that was the only time your team was good growing up here. To be honest, am I wrong? But it's
no,
true,
you're
dude.
not. Yeah.
That was the only time that you'd be able to win. No, now let's go to our next question. This is from Jeff Miles. I know it's more complicated than this, Hall, but it seems like the offensive line always blocks better for Brissett than Howell. While it seems Howell has 2 seconds to get the ball out, Brissett has all day.
Yeah. It does. I mean, I guess I can see where it seems like that, but it's also been such like a huge sample size for Sam, and like 3 quarters or whatever. It's been 4 quarters for Jacoby. So I feel like obviously we're gonna get a whole sample size, a whole 4 quarters. If you knock on wood, we'll get a whole 4 quarters from Jacoby this one, and we'll actually see like was it Sam, was it the line, like was it the offense, the receivers, whatnot, blah blah blah. But I also feel like part of that is also it's Jacoby's. He's a veteran in this league. He's been in multiple offenses. He knows, like, kind of like Terry's talked about. He knows like the leverages between the cornerback. He knows okay, I see that hot route coming. He knows when to get rid of the ball. So I definitely think that like part of it might be like, yes, the sample size may seem like that Jacoby, they block better for Jacoby or whatnot, or they might run the ball more when Jacoby's in the game. But I think it's more of like the mental aspect of Jacoby just knows the offense more. He's been in the league more. He's seen more defenses. He's seen more pre-snap and post-snap defenses as far as shifting and like trying to confuse you go. So he knows when to get rid of the ball, where to throw the ball at, who the hot routes are going to be, where the hot routes are coming from, and whatnot, stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's just mostly part of it.
I agree with you. There was a lot in there that you packed in. I do agree with you a lot in that sense. But, Jeff, it is very complicated, like you said. There's a lot that goes into it. But this is why it's very good to have experience. Like in my field of construction, somebody can say, obviously everyone knows that being an electrician is complicated. But they don't understand what each and every little small thing does, where a person could say, yeah, I'm an electrician. But once you become an electrician, you kind of see what goes on. You understand that there's levels to it, and you have to progress through it, right? And that experience is so valuable. You've ever heard the term for a blue-collar guy where you're not paying me to do the job. You're paying me for my experience to fix the job because my expertise of the experience of having this, I know how to do it. And essentially, with Jacoby, it seems like things are much less confusing for everybody.
Things move slower when he's on for him, like as far as like on the field.
Right. Because he's seen a lot of football, right? And so you're seeing a
yeah.
master electrician out there who knows exactly what to do, who's communicating perfectly for everybody. And whereas Sam Howell is more so of a journeyman, still coming through it, hasn't graduated yet. But that's why you see the kind of differences where it's a little bit more disorganized with Howell in there, where Brissett, it's more organized. And I think that has a lot to do with the experience. And there's no disrespect to Howell. That's the hardest job to do in all of the world, essentially. Being able to see these things, have the muscle memory, being able to do it accurately while these guys are running 1,000 miles an hour, being gigantic humans trying to kill you. It's insane. And I understand that. And I just think that the experience part of it is so incredibly valuable that not a lot of people give a lot of credit to it. But that's why you have to give credit to guys like Stroud who come in right away and really do well, because there's obviously a separator there that not everybody has. But I don't even remember what the question was. What was it?
Why does it seem like the line blocks more, like blocks better for
but basically
Jacoby than Howell? Yeah.
In my opinion, that's what happens. And people can say, well, he's a professional, he needs to, but during the course of a game, there's so much that goes on. There's plays every single time. Things can get chaotic, especially given the circumstances permitting with everything involved. So I could imagine that's most likely what was happening. And if you listen to EB's presser from today, he definitely highlighted talking about the talking to the huddle in that sort of way with Jacoby Brissett and what he brings. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. I can't thank you guys enough for joining us. Sorry we did not have a Christmas Eve special for you guys or anything. I did not want to get shot by my wife, so I thought that was probably smart to be able to move that along and not do that. So I appreciate you guys for sticking through with us for this episode. Thank you to Mike Callow and Reed for stopping by for us, being able to give us some of their intellect. Not so much more so Reed, but on Callow's end. But all right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. You'll see us again on Sunday after the game for our post-game reaction and to kind of talk about everything that's transpiring as of late. All right, everybody, I'm Kyle.
I'm Dove Kleiman.
Dove Kleiman. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday. Have a great, safe weekend. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.